what happens when you purify your body, your mind, your spirit. Something miraculous. The body begins to heal itself. Welcome to the Medicine Girl podcast, where each week we explore new ways to heal your body from the root, igniting your inner healer. You are the medicine. And now, here's your host, Robin Stebbins.
Hello, and welcome to the Medicine Girl podcast. It's me, your host, Robin Stebbins, and today I am delighted to have Darlene Greene, who has been so patient with me and my insane work schedule to finally be here today. We both coordinated our schedules. So, Darlene, I'm going to have you introduce yourself. Tell our listeners kind of a little bit about your background story that really captivated me, because I get a lot of requests to be on my podcast, but I'm really discerning about being in alignment with my mission, and you really are. So take it away, Darlene.
Sure. Thank you. Well, I have a very diverse background, and I say that as someone who spent 20 years in the Navy. I was a retired Navy commander, and when I left the Navy, well, before I even left the Navy, I had 3 commanding officer positions. One was over 1,200 people. While I was in the Navy, I was diagnosed with several autoimmune disorders, and that began my journey into health. You know, things that have no cure: chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, POTS, postural orthostatic tachycardia. I also had a lovely bit with PTSD and did a lot of mental health therapy and stress management and all of that as well. So all of those things helped to serve me in some regard, because I learned an awful lot there. You know, when it's kind of funny, and you and I are totally aligned on pharmaceuticals, but it's real funny because if there is no pharmaceutical to fix this disease, then they just say, there's nothing we can do, sorry. You know, and they just sort of toss you out. So I did a lot of my own alternative investigative work at that point in time, and really nailed down, you know, eating whole foods and all the colors of the rainbow, and exercise and sleep, and just kind of all the regular water, all of the things, right? However, then I got out of the Navy and I was in technology, and I was in the network and security technology world. And then I was in the software technology world. I was a vice president for McAfee, which a lot of people know that name. And I left that to become a dean of a boarding school where I was overseeing 350 girls. And that was really great and taught a lot. I don't know what my gestures are on. I didn't like that. That's funny. But that was really great. I got to teach leadership really to high school girls, and demonstrate it, and teach the counselors and the dorm moms and everything. And that was wonderful. And then I went back into technology, both initially in consulting and then back in network and security technology. And then my husband, we've been married 16 years. He was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And this began a whole new journey for me. I was still very much suffering with my autoimmune disorders. And every time I would look into anything for Alzheimer's, it was really a pretty bleak, as you know, it's a very bleak world. And even the medicines that are touted as just the latest and greatest thing are not latest and great. They are actually very dangerous. In fact, they cause brain bleeds in 50% of the people with my husband's APOE4 type. I actually almost got into it with our Alzheimer's doctor, because I would ask him questions around Dr. Bredeson's protocol, which is a really strong protocol of diet and exercise, and making sure you don't have other things like mold and Lyme disease and issues that could be the root cause of Alzheimer's, and insulin resistance, things of that nature. And they would have nothing to do with that, and didn't know who anybody like David Perlmutter was. And I'm like, how can you know anything about the brain and not know who David Perlmutter is? So anyway, we did not see eye to eye at all. And I went over to Barrows Neurological Center, but even they didn't have anything helpful. Everything that I looked at kept drawing me to stem cells. So we went out of country on 4 occasions in a year to go to try IV stem cell therapy. And we saw no results. And I did it too. So $10,000 a pop for him and me, 4 times in a year, no results. So I was pretty discouraged. And at this point in time, we were at a place in time, Robin, where, and I know you know what I'm talking about because you do a lot of care providing, but we were at a place in time where my husband was very much a zombie. Now, my husband is 67 years old, and I'm 59 tomorrow, actually.
Oh, happy almost birthday.
Thank you. So I'm living with a zombie. He's sleeping the day away. I mean, sleeping 3.5 hours of the day. He's not talking anymore. He's just not engaging, or he's not communicating. If he does, he's asking the same question over and over again. And he's not trying to be funny anymore, which is core to his personality. It was just really heartbreaking. And I fell into a depression. I had broken my foot, sprained my ankle, and all of my coping mechanisms around being a care provider flew out the window, which were pickleball, walks around the neighborhood, socializing. All of that ended, and I was sitting in a chair. And even asking my husband for a glass of ice water was more than he could do. So that's where we were. And somebody said to me, you know, we have had our entire family's life transformed by these amazing patches that activate your own stem cells. And I was like, Tanya, honest to Pete, I did not do any research initially. I have read all the 90 clinical studies since then, but I had tried hyperbaric chamber, I had tried ozone therapy, I had been doing the keto flex, Bredesen protocol. I have an infrared sauna. We're drinking water with electrolytes. We're exercising and doing weight training and all the things. We threw out soda, we threw out alcohol, we threw out white sugar, we threw out flour, we threw out all the bad oils years ago. So we really had done everything we knew to do. And I was just like, sure, anything about stem cells I'm in. And then only after did I actually really dig in and read all the studies. But in that very first week of wearing this simple little patch that's the size of a quarter, activates your own stem cells by elevating your GHKCU, my husband didn't nap at all. That 3.5-hour nap that he'd been taking for a year stopped. Mm. He began talking and engaging, and I mean, like a dam broke. And he's talking and talking and talking, and he's making sense, and he's responding appropriately, and he's with it, and he's funny again, and he's flirty again. And I was just like, holy cow. And selfishly, even better, not necessarily really even better, but my depression lifted. It didn't happen in the first week, but in the second or the third week, my depression just completely lifted. I had more energy. I felt better. I haven't had to take medicine that the doctors wanted me to take to keep from passing out. Fludrocortisone was the medicine to raise your blood pressure. Boy, doesn't that sound like a great idea? No. And I really didn't want to, but I just kept passing out and blacking out. And I haven't had to take that at all in the 10 months that we've been on the patches. I don't have any symptoms of chronic fatigue syndrome or fibromyalgia anymore. My rosacea cleared up. I wake up before my alarm clock. I'm ready to work out. And in a different way, like before it was white knuckling through the workouts, white knuckling through not eating sugar or white flour. And now it's just simple. I have a calmness. I have focus. I'm a better care provider because of these patches. And he's a better patient because of these patches. So that's just kind of the beginning. And we can speak to how do they work and the technology and all, but I thought I would stop for a second and make sure I'm not going on for too long with you.
No, I really appreciate that story, especially because, and what I want to just put an emphasis on is that when you go into the medical industrial complex, I call it, with these, heartbreaking medical issues, and they're like, sorry, it devastates you. They take away that last granule of hope.
They do. Yeah. They literally, Banner's Alzheimer's said, this is where he is today. His lifespan, because it's early Alzheimer's, it could be even 3 to 5 years, maybe 5 to 8. Just come back in a year and we'll see how he's doing. Yeah. Like, that's your answer? Well, how do you really know it's Alzheimer's? What if it's mold? Mold can demonstrate like Alzheimer's. Yeah. Well, we don't have anything. We don't really do anything with mold, right?
Right. And again, it's not like they're taking your husband and plugging him into a computer and the computer is saying like, oh, you have Alzheimer's, you have dementia, you have, they guess based on their criteria. It's a diagnostic code so that the insurance company pays for it. But when you look at across the board, if we just got rid of a diagnosis, what you're coming in with is a set of symptoms. Then you could like more readily address those, and then more readily address the roots of the problem, so that he could start getting better instead of what they normally do. And if you weren't the person that you are, you would just go home and wait a year and it's just like, this is our lot in life. Oh, well.
That's right.
Instead of saying like, no, you're not going to cast those spells on me and diagnose us with these diseases that I'm not contracting with you for.
That's
there
right.
are ways, and they don't look at the outliers. The MDs get 3 hours of nutrition in medical school, and they'll probably use those 3 hours to sleep because they don't care. That's not getting them.
No, I agree. I feel like doctors at pharmaceuticals, they're in pharmaceutical school. They're not in medical school. They're in what drugs are for what and how do we operate? That's kind of it.
That is it. That is actually
lifestyle,
it.
Yeah, all the rest just doesn't play into it. When I ask, well, what causes this? No, they have no answer to that. Well, if you talk to some others, it's actually potentially, in fact, 70 to 80% of Alzheimer's I've heard is actually caused by insulin resistance and mold. Well, does anybody?
And then let's take it a step further. What we're talking about is a demyelination. And what causes the demyelination, it's for those that don't know, it's a nice little insulator like on your electrical wires. And if you don't have it, then it goes haywire, and that can cause muscular things like
like Parkinson's, the myelin.
Yes, Parkinson's, multiple sclerosis, Guillain-Barré, all of these different motor symptoms. And it's not like, oh, that's Parkinson's and that's Guillain-Barré. They just guess based on a criteria, but it's a demyelination. So if we could just, again, the axons, dendrites, and the communicators have demyelinated, that fatty coating around it. A lot of what I see is every single one of my patients is on a cholesterol reducing medication. Statin drugs will demyelinate.
The devil.
High blood sugar will.
They're all the devil. Yes. So many people actually think those drugs are causing the Alzheimer's epidemic. At least you're not alone. I've heard that from several people. And they did have him on that for a while. And I was very against it. And it's hard. It's hard to go up against Western medicine, right? They are authority figures. And when Jim was, in his own right mind, and he's saying, this is what my, cardiologist says I need to do. And but the studies are really not good with this. Like, this is really, and of course you get in there and you challenge the cardiologist and he pushes right back. So
and just to really hammer that home for people, it's the cardiologist, they know. And I know they know, because back in nursing school, we knew this. The literature was crystal clear that the lower your cholesterol, the higher your incidence of dementia and Alzheimer's. The brain is made up of almost all cholesterol. If you don't eat enough cholesterol, your body produces it. It doesn't want to because it's a metabolic, deficit. But it will. That's how important it is. And here we are chronically lowering cholesterol, and everyone wants to eat foods. It's so silly. Like, eat a bowl of Cheerios to lower your cholesterol, or oatmeal. Like, somehow that's going to magically lower cholesterol. And even though I, educate people and have talked to doctors about this, they'll still say, well, then how do I get my cholesterol lower? You don't want low cholesterol. Then we look at all of these things. Yes, mold, fungus, all of those exposures, and we don't know where and when they're exposed, but antibiotics are a prime contributor of actually eating mold.
Yeah, and the insulin resistance is huge, right? How many people are walking around today with insulin resistance? But I think they think about diabetes or they think about those things, but do they think about Alzheimer's? I mean, somebody who is sitting there battling their A1C levels, are you thinking about the fact that this could be a primary cause of Alzheimer's? Or, I mean, that if anything were to get you in the gym working out and thinking twice about what you put in your mouth, because you are a machine made to function so well. There's such a neat wisdom, but we are not feeding our bodies real food anymore, or foods with nutrients anymore. So even that's really hard, and it's really hard when it's even hard with family events where your family understands what you're going through, and you're like, no, we're not doing sugar, and we're not doing flour, and we're not doing genetically modified foods, and it needs to be grass fed, and it needs to be organic, and all of these things, and they kind of, and I'm like,
I know.
How can you not understand? And my family's good about it now, but when I cut out alcohol too, my sister, we were in a Vegas trip, and my sister's like, what do you mean we're in Vegas? You're not going to drink alcohol? And I was like, no, we cut it out. There's a reason we cut it out. It's a health reason. And I'm doing what my husband is doing because I think that's because I've done a lot of investigative work, and I now understand it's really just not good for you. No,
it's ethanol alcohol, whether it's your 200 glass of wine in Napa or, a 6-pack of Bud Light. It's ethanol alcohol that fuels cars. And there is no benefit to drinking alcohol. There is that resveratrol in red wine does not help you. You'd have to drink, I think, 40 bottles in a row to get the amount that you would need.
Eat a grape and some of the other things.
But the food is that piece too. They're inundating the food supply. So even in your healthy grocery stores, Whole Foods is now bought by Amazon, and it's the same as all your other big box grocery stores. There's nothing healthy in them. You have to, I went to Rayleigh's that we have here in Northern California, and I found some organic walnuts maybe they're organic and maybe they're not, but they're in a plastic package, and a couple other things, but the rest of it, most of the produce they get from China, they don't have to have the same regulations. And so that's another way to demyelinate all of these frankenfoods and frankenchemicals.
And how about glutathione? Glutathione is huge in protecting the myelin sheath. We actually have a patch for glutathione, and I was taking glutathione by IV, and I was also taking it orally. And I found out later that the IV glutathione was increasing my glutathione by 27% for 7 minutes, where the glutathione patch that we have elevates it 300% and it stays there for 24 hours. So glutathione, as someone, you can see why, right? As someone with 3 autoimmune disorders going into a pandemic, I was like, everything I can do to boost my own natural immune system. And since glutathione is your body's master antioxidant and immune booster, as well as a detoxifier, I was all about elevating my glutathione. And not to mention that the people that live the longest in the world and live in those blue zones have the highest levels of glutathione. So I love that glutathione not only does these things and protects the DNA from damage and repairs damaged cells, but it also does protect the myelin sheath. And detoxifies these heavy metals. I love that.
And I want to ask you also, because I've done a deep dive now into supplements, because the pharmaceutical industry owns most of the supplement. Pretty much all of it. Either they own the companies themselves, or they own where the small mom and pop get their bulk supplements from. So they don't put anything in a capsule that doesn't create downstream customers. So I, in my research, have found that you cannot take, let's say, a capsule of vitamin C, even whether it's, powdered and dehydrated orange, and get the bioavailable nutrients from that orange. So like glutathione, you can inject it into your bloodstream and might raise it up, for 7 minutes?
Yeah, right, maybe.
maybe. What is that? What is happening in that 7 minutes? Your body's just like, what is going on? What's going on?
Right.
What are you inundating me with? Whereas, and I have done some research on the patches, and I actually have bought some of them. One mostly was for my son who wants to bodybuild, and he was vaccine injured, and we're climbing our way out of that hole. He's almost 17, and finally getting all of that. But back to the original question, like, is this is the way to get your body to produce?
Exactly. And your body doesn't overproduce or underproduce when you're on these patches, right? It is optimizing. It is creating homeostasis. And that's not just, so let's talk about GHKCU, because that's the big thing that the X39 patch is elevating and I was not familiar with GHKCU. I had been familiar with a few peptides. Peptides are sort of the new big thing, right?
Yeah.
But they're not easy to get your hands on. Doctors aren't really talking about them. But this GHKCU peptides, it has at least been studied for about 50 years, and elevating it has proven to do some amazing things, including activating stem cells and growth factors, protecting lungs. It's an anti-inflammatory. It's a huge anti-cancer. It actually resets programmed cell death of cancer cells, including like neuroblastoma and leukemia and breast cancer cells, but it doesn't affect healthy cells. And that's what I love about. So in these studies, they were looking at things where you were injecting GHKCU or putting it in a cream and taking it in. What I love about the patch is your body is elevating your own GHKCU, and in fact doing it more than the 4 injections in a day, just like when you walk out in the sun and your body makes vitamin D. And just like you and Jim Stevenson, was that his name, talked about the vitamin D double cross. That is not a good solution, taking in vitamin D. It is better to walk out in the sun and have your body make the vitamin D. And in this case, having your body make that GHKCU has these amazing benefits for not only the brain, which is really important in my husband's case, but also the heart, which has been really important in my case. I think the reason I'm not passing out anymore is because of the improvements in fibrinogen synthesis, increased myostatin, which inhibits heart failure. They did a study with X39, and they showed that in just 6 weeks, the cardiovascular system began behaving as if it were 8 weeks younger. And I think that made the difference. I think my blood is now getting up to the brain, and I'm able to function properly. So no doctor can say, well, we're going to do this with this medicine, or there's no surgery to fix POTS, right? And it's frustrating because I'm in POTS groups, and I can't talk about this, because the moment I start talking about this, I get thrown out, right? They're like, oh, you're crazy, or.
And what does POTS stand for?
Postural orthostatic tachycardia. So
explain that for the listeners.
So it's when I go to stand up or get overheated and I just black out. It means my heart is working on overdrive to try to pump blood to the brain, which is deprived. And because it's deprived, it shuts like everything down at blackout. And I had passed out twice, knocked my head against the corner of a wall one time, knocked my head against the bathtub. I was grounded from driving for 2 weeks when they were trying to figure out what was going on. And ultimately they said, you have very low blood pressure, and it's, and then this POTS, and there's nothing we can do for that other than, take this drug, it'll increase your blood pressure. And I was like, there has to be a better solution than that. And they said, well, you can eat a lot of salt, that will help. And so that's what I did for a good solid 15 years, is just take in more salt. And that was mostly beneficial, but it wasn't cutting it of late. And I don't know why, pickleball in Arizona, maybe that was why, just got overheated and it was just not cutting it anymore. I could see stars and start to block out. And once it starts, it's just, there's no containing it, and it continues. So, but now I can do all of those things and not have any issues. And so I love, to your point, that this is the body making the response, and not just GHKCU, right? There are different patches, just like we talked about the glutathione patch. There are different patches that do different things. So we have a patch that elevates epithelum. That is great for the organs. I mean, people love it because it's great for the skin. I mean, people see the results in fine lines and wrinkles and soft baby skin. And I've seen that myself, the clearing of my rosacea that dermatologists could never touch. But really what I love about it is the effect on the organs. When you elevate your body's levels of epithelum, you're improving organ function in your frontal lobes, your adrenal glands, your liver, your hypothalamus, your pituitary gland, your thyroid gland, your kidneys, and your pancreas. And those are huge. Not to mention, you're stimulating the pineal gland. So that is helpful across the board, right? So
yeah, as long as it's, decalcified. And that's another way to calcify and demyelinate. And I haven't found any studies on this, not that I will, because the vitamin D lobbyists are $1 million industry. But if you are taking vitamin D3, you're calcifying your body.
Let's just start with that. Stop.
Don't ever,
right?
ever touch it with a 10-foot pole, or if you need to kill your rodents, you can do that. But it pulls that calcium and the minerals from your bones into your bloodstream, into your body, and it will calcify your pineal gland. Well, your pineal gland is essential for all sorts of things, not the least of which is your intuition, and it also makes you more susceptible to millimeter wave radiation. That's your 5G towers, your 4G towers, all of this electromagnetic forces that we're inundated with now from the computers and the ring lights and everything else. There's no studies on that yet, but you are more of a conduit when you're calcified.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I didn't know that. I appreciate that. I actually was taking vitamin D before listening to your podcast and then stopped. And really re-examined. I've always been a strong believer in whole food nutrition and even whole food supplementation. But that was really telling for me. And when you're talking about radiation and you're talking about bone density and the issues that we face, I mean, especially my age group, where we're starting to lose muscle mass so regularly, it's hard to maintain it. And bone density loss. And when you get older and older, it's really the things that really start to kill people, as I don't have to tell you because you're taking care of people all the time, is they fall. They are not stable, they're not sturdy, they're not strong, they fall down and they break their bones. Yeah. And that's the beginning of the long decline or the quick decline. And so one of the patches, so we can't tell our stem cells where to go, right? When they activate in our body, they go wherever they need to go. And I would love to say, okay, all of those stem cells for my husband go directly to his brain, do not stop, go, and start protecting and doing everything you need to do to help this Alzheimer's situation. But they may say to me, well, Darlene, your husband was a 30-year naval aviator. We got to start in his liver. I don't know. But what I can do is the patch X49, which elevates the daughter peptide AHKCU, that is specifically found in the brain and the heart and the muscles. And so by elevating that peptide, I know that the stem cell activity in his heart, his muscle, and his brain gets activated. And what it ends up, they find in the studies that are around that patch, is that it actually promotes lean muscle mass, it promotes bone density, it reduces cell phone radiation impact by protecting the body. So it's really, and of course, what I also love as someone who has struggled, and if you know of people with fibromyalgia, you have aches and pains, sort of like the flu, and working out and recovery from working out is very, very hard. You really have trouble, especially with the things that you need to do, like weightlifting. And so you always have to be very gentle in your workouts. I don't have to be very gentle in my workouts anymore, because one of the things that these patches do is it induces a faster recovery after exercise. And so now I don't think about weight loss. I think about more muscle, leaner body mass, because I want every bit of muscle. And most diets and the horrible drugs like Ozempic that are out there, they are, the first thing they're doing is they're taking away your muscle and they're taking away your water. You're built, that's just what you need the most of, is water and muscle, right?
Which is why you're losing weight. You're not actually losing fat and getting your body in a healthier.
No,
your scale will just look smaller.
Yeah.
The numbers on it.
We don't care about the scale. We don't care about the scale. We want strong muscles. And
Well, and I think too, to go back to what you said about you don't necessarily have to direct. You said, I would like to direct the stem cells to the brain, but the body has this miraculous wisdom that will say, no, you wouldn't want all these stem cells in the brain. It would just be a waste. Like, you've got to do that, tiered pyramid approach until you get to the top, and then it can work in that manner, because it didn't start in the brain.
That's right. Yeah. Do we really know what we need to go attack as human beings? Nobody really knows. They think it's this, they think it's that, but some people say, well, the tau proteins and the tangles and all that, that's really downstream. Like, let's go to upstream where the fire is, wherever the actual problem is. And I don't think we really know what that even is yet. So I love that. I love the inflammation. It actually eats up stem cells, and then they're not able to go to work for you. So there's a combination we call the dynamic duo, which is the EON patch, the anti-inflammation patch. It was the #1 best-selling patch until the X39 came on the market 4 years ago. And it reduces inflammation and cortisol and C-reactive proteins and stress. It's actually called the happy patch because it balances the autonomic nervous system. And so when you are lowering your inflammation while you're raising your stem cell activity, now you really notice the effects much, much more quickly. And so most people I really recommend for that. When you look at what X39 does for the brain in a study of 2019 double-blind placebo-controlled study, where they measured with EEG, they actually showed the before EEG, which had red, hypercoherence, inflammation, PTSD, anger, ADHD, not good communicating brain. 3 weeks later, after just wearing X39 for 12 hours on and 12 hours off, the whole color map changed. The blues, the greens, the yellows came in. And 3 weeks later, at 6 weeks, they had a whole new color map. And it was so much improved. And people reported improvements. But what the actual findings of the study were, it increased the GHKC. They actually found that in the blood. It supported cell and nerve regeneration. It balanced the brain. It improved the coherence. It improved the nervous system. It lowered anxiety. It decreased that brain inflammation, and it improved memory and focus and cognitive brain function and task processing. And I got to watch that with my husband, and I got to experience that myself. So we have people who've had PTSD who are on ADHD meds. God forbid. I mean, those are horrible. Or ADD, all that.
Yeah.
They're awful, right? So they got off of those. They've gotten off of their cholesterol meds. They've gotten off of their blood pressure meds. They've gotten off, and we're not saying, and I have to be really careful because we need to make sure it's clear. LifeWave products are not intended to cure, treat, diagnose, or prevent disease, even if they do.
And we're not giving medical advice.
And we're not giving medical advice, right? But oh my goodness, people are off their thyroid medicine, for goodness sakes. They're not. My husband's blood pressure dropped 37 points in like months. I mean, just a few months. So it is really astonishing how your body can do the right thing when you give it the right signal. And the way this patch is working, we haven't really talked about that, but it's just
that's what I want to get into.
Yeah, your own light back into you. So if I looked at you with night vision goggles on, Robin, you have light inside of you. And I love that. I love that we have light inside of us and heat, right? That's a beautiful thing. So what this patch does is it just reflects your own light like a little mirror. It's a little lattice structure of amino nanocrystals. It reflects your own light back into you at a very specific wavelength. We see people for 5,000 years. We've actually had light therapy. They've studied light therapy and the effects of light on people for so many thousands of years. And we have people using red laser therapy and blue light therapy and infrared sauna and all of these things. So it shouldn't be surprising that we can reflect light at a very specific wavelength to create a beneficial biochemical response. That's called photobiomodulation. And that's what this patch is. Non-transdermal, nothing going in the skin. In fact, you can wear it on the outside of your clothing. You can put it on the outside of your sweatshirt. You can face it the opposite direction. It doesn't matter which way you face it. It's like a little double-sided mirror. It's going to reflect it back. You can slide it under the pillowcase of a very stubborn grandma who won't put the patch on her. Slide it under this, and then just put a new one in the next 12 hours later. We actually only wear it 12 hours, even though there's probably about 18 hours of life in it, because we don't want you to have attenuation where your body gets used to it and then stops responding. So 12 hours and then take it off and put it on somebody else or put it on a pet. We have a lot of pets who get a lot healthier as a result.
Interesting.
Yeah, very.
Because I love pet studies because they don't have the placebo, nocebo. It just it doesn't, and I love those.
Yeah.
Because I don't like to recommend anything to my patients or my clients that I work with unless that I've done it myself and it has zero negative consequences in the long run. Like, everyone's hot on ozone and peptides now, or IV infusions and IV therapy. I don't agree with jamming things in your bloodstream, especially as a nurse.
Mm-hmm. I just didn't. I didn't see any results. I mean, that's the problem with all the things. I was willing to try them all, and I paid a lot of money to try these things.
Yeah, they're expensive.
We were even doing hyperbaric chamber immediately followed by ozone blood spinning therapy, right? And still nothing, no improvement. And that's why. And it's not just my husband and myself, right? I get text messages now every day from somebody that I've shown the patches to, who is thanking me for how much improved their life is. They're not in pain. They're not suicidal. Their chronic microscopic colitis cleared up in 3 weeks that they'd had 6 years. Their gut issues, their leaky gut, their migraines, an Agent Orange leukemia, on deathbed, told, we're going to give you this pill. It's going to kill you, but we're going to, it's going to improve your quality of life until you die. 3 days on the pouches, was out of bed. 2 weeks was traveling, had sold all the cows. They were getting ready to bury this man, and he bought all of his cows back. He's living his best life and is absolutely fine. I mean, there are thousands of testimonials, and in fact, there's an anesthesiologist who I wouldn't normally put a lot of credit into, except that this 40-year anesthesiologist said, this X39 is the most significant medical breakthrough in my lifetime. I love that. I love that. And that, we haven't even talked about pain relief. So the most demonstrative patch immediately are the pain relief patches, and that's called IceWave. And I will tell you, the first time I tried IceWave, I really, it's so magical that you can't even comprehend it. Like, you just don't believe it. I mean, I had done Percocet and Vicodin and all the bad things that are horrible for you out of clear necessity. I have a really tough time with pain management. I think it's the fibromyalgia or whatever is part of that. I don't really know. I don't really care. I just know I have a hard time with pain. And when I put IceWave on and it just took it away like that, in 15 seconds, I was just like, that's just impossible. This must be the day that my pain goes away, because you just can't fathom it. And then I took the patches off after 12 hours, and within minutes, my ankle was throbbing again. And I was like, wow. But over time, the pain, the X39 and the Eon are getting to the root cause, and they're going in and doing the cellular regeneration. In fact, X39 is resetting 3,000 to 4,000 genes in the first 24 hours to their healthier, more optimal state. So over time, that's working on the issue, and the IceWave is just helping manage pain until you get that issue more manageable. I love it.
So when it's reflecting the light back, it's done in a certain pattern. And so how does the body then pick that up and say, well, I'm going to make more stem cells, or I'm going to increase this glutathione level, or how is it communicating that?
It's communicating through the light, it's the specific wavelength, just like the certain, like sunlight in certain wavelengths will cause melanin to be increased.
Or, for example, so I'm just trying to wrap my head around it. So when the sunlight hits my skin, there's 16 to 17 different reactions creating these corticosteroid hormones that are then being shuttled around with the cholesterol. So it's similar to that.
It is. And I honestly can't speak to, I can tell you that each patch is elevating a different peptide by using a different wavelength of light.
Okay.
So, the glutathione patch isn't the same crystal lattice structure elevating the same light wavelength as the Eon or the carnosine patch or the Alavita, right? So they're just different wavelengths.
And then, so when I got my patches, I just really wanted to try it for my son, and I thought, well, I'll just do them for myself. And what I noticed is that initial rush of energy. I think I was using the X39 and X49 at the same time. But then it was just confusing as to when to use what patch, and do you combine them, and so one would say like, okay, use that for sleep. But other than that, I was just like, well, just put patches on. I don't know.
Yeah. And that's where I come in, right? That's why we have stem cell activation technology consultants now, because it is confusing. Where do you put the patch? Well, there are optimal places. There are energy meridians that you can benefit. There's a patch for that I think is just phenomenal, that actually improves organ function and really eliminates sugar and hunger cravings. It's called SP6, and it's put on spleen 0.6. And it's very good for addictions, amazing for people with alcohol or drug addictions. I don't know how it's doing it. It does something with the brain, but it also balances the endocrine system and the hormone system, and it's really good for intestines and kidneys and adrenal glands and thyroid. But I love that patch. But that patch, I can tell you, it's different depending on where you put it. And if it needs to be placed right on spleen 0.6. X39 and X49. X49, I understand, works better for women underneath the belly button, but it can be placed, they can be placed anywhere. They can be placed on your big toe. They're going to still light up the GHKCU and the AHKCU. I think that IceWave, though, is a patch that is very, very specific to a location. So if you put on IceWave and you don't have immediate pain relief within 15 seconds, it's not in the right place. And there are places to try until you get it in the right place. And so I always say to someone who's on IceWave, call me, let me FaceTime with you. I will work with you to find that right spot. Because people just give up and they're like, it's not working. Well, no, it will work. It will work. It's just a matter of finding your spot in the right place. And so, but you can there are day patches and night patches. You can wear them all. You don't have to wear all of them. You can wear all of them. For some of us that are impatient and needed a lot of help, I wasn't willing to, I think ultimately X39 and X49 together particularly, but even just X39 alone, over the long haul, will do the things that all the other patches are doing. It just will take time. And some of us don't want to wait that long. So, if you're on a very narrow budget, and even then, $99 for 1 month supply of X39 patches is not a lot relative to the $10,000 I spent on a one-time IV, right? That did nothing. So, $99 for the X39, and it's really anywhere. If you are having a hurt shoulder, I put it on the shoulder. And I do like Eon, the anti-inflammation patch with the X39. And I've had a lot of people testimonial-wise that would say they can actually get pain relief out of the X39 and the Eon alone without even using IceWave on those two patches placed on a point of injury. We've also done a study that showed there were, I don't remember how many people were in the study, but they all needed a knee surgery. And some of them were bone on bone with this knee. And they did glutathione patch on one part of the knee and an Eon patch on the other part of the knee. And then they wore the X39. A lot of people just put that on the back of the neck. And in 2 to 3 months' time, 0% of the people in the participants in the study went on to have the surgery that they were scheduled for. 0, because it grew the cartilage and regenerated it, and they no longer were in the pain that they were in before. It really went in and tried to heal. People say you can't regrow cartilage. Yes,
you can. You can. They say it because it's the medical industrial complex that want to sell these surgeries. I worked in a surgery unit as a what do they call it? PACU. I did the recovery when people come out of surgery, and I got to see them just churning out these surgeries because they were quick and they are money makers. And then I hear the people retelling it like, oh, my doctor said it's bone on bone. It'll never be better. And you can't regrow cartilage. Boom, let's get the surgery. What we're talking about is giving that space for the body to do all these things itself. And I mean, I'm of the mind, though, that you cannot be on alcohol, nicotine, caffeine, all these other things and eat a crappy diet and then try and have the patch make up for all of that.
Solve all your problems.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there is no doubt you have to give your body water. I know I really enjoyed your podcast on water and learned a lot about water and the importance of water and filtration and all of that. The one requirement that they say as a company is you have to drink half your body weight in ounces in water. What they also anecdotally will tell you, and even the founder and inventor will tell you, is it really helps if you are consuming enough copper in your diet, so that you have enough. 80 to 90% of people don't have enough copper, and to make this copper peptide, it's really helpful to have that copper. It's also helpful to have enough electrolytes in your body. But what I have seen is it's given people just like me, like I wanted to work out every day. Did I? No. I wanted to. I was depressed and I just didn't have it in me. But after being on the patches, even the first week, I was up, I was at it. I'm like, I'm going to go work out. I felt like working out, and I had the energy to work out. I was in the kitchen. I was cooking up these healthy meals, and I'm like, I don't know why I hated cooking. And then I'm like, I hated cooking because I had no energy to cook. You need energy. And so it gives you the energy, the wherewithal, it takes away that, I feel like I've spent my life white knuckling with an amazing amount of discipline through life, through the commercials, through the crap around fast foods, driving down the road, just no, in the grocery store, no, looking at the box, no, and really working hard regularly, really having to tap into all of my discipline to do the right things. And I don't feel that way anymore. Like, I'm just not interested in those things anymore. I am interested in exercising. I am interested in drinking a lot of water. I am interested in eating healthy. And I feel, and it has certainly made me just feel like I'm a better, more patient care provider. And God bless all the care providers in the world, because this is not for the faint of heart. It is really
you're just signed up for a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week job, in addition to everything else you are already doing. And I mean, as Americans, we're maxed out. Just the fact that you're an American, or if you're living in one of these states like California, like most of us here now have 2 or 3 jobs just to maintain and just to keep everything running. And then we add in caretaking.
Yeah. Which never stops. And is 4 days in a row, I have laid out my husband's clothes for him and said, honey, put these clothes on right before walking up. He's in the shower, and then 4 out of 4 days, he hasn't put those clothes on. 4 out of 4 days. So it's like, okay, what, but you just keep, and you're, sometimes you are dealing with really an adult toddler. I need you to shower and then put on these long sleeve, no. Well, and why no? Why?
Yeah.
Well, I just don't want to.
Yeah.
So not even dealing with the same person anymore. They don't necessarily know he doesn't always know who I am. Well, I'm going to have to talk to some people about this. We just switched office. I finally got into the office of the building. Like it used to be, I was right off of the kitchen and the family room, and that worked fine. Because Jim would come in here and this was his man cave, right?
Yeah.
But what's happened is I finally have a care provider helping me. Thank you, Lord Jesus. And that now that they're coming in, they can't like live in this office, right? So they need that space. They need the kitchen. They need the family room. They know that space. So I talked about switching to the office, and you would have thought this did not go over well.
Yeah.
So, you're just dealing with a whole lot of things that, like with a toddler, and I need, I think, extra energy for that. And so one of my favorite patches is the energy enhancer. And I don't think I realized what a difference it was making until one day I forgot to put them on. And I hit that midday slump. I was like looking like needing a nap. I was thinking, my God, my energy enhancers aren't working at all today. I wear them on the bottom of my feet. And I looked on the bottom of my feet, like, did it fall off? And I didn't have them on. And I was like, oh, yay. So patch those babies on, and man, I went on. So anybody that's living on these horrible things like Red Bull or any kind of energy stimulants.
Monsters are horrible.
Please don't do that.
Some of them are testing positive for opioids. Some of them are testing positive for benzodiazepines. Like, I think Celsius has Valium in it, or some trace drugs in it to make it even more and horrible for you.
I'm so sad to hear that, and it's scary because there are kids drinking this sort of stuff, right? I mean, that's their
yes, giant 24-ounce cans of this stuff that have, I think we counted, one of them had 26 sugar cubes in it, like the Arizona iced teas or one of those. Yeah, so these are ways, and what I do like about the patch is there's no downside, right? There's no
complication. I will say this, you have to go slowly with the glutathione, because the X39 already increases your glutathione by 30%, and that's going to cause some detox. And you know better than most that when if you detox too fast, you can get a headache or some negative side effects, some nausea. Step 1, drink more water and let's flush that out.
Yeah.
Step 2, slow down the process. Take the patch, and don't wear it 12 hours, wear it 8 hours or 6 hours, depending on how sensitive you are. Just slow down the detox process so that you're not going faster than your body can dump the toxins. We don't want them reabsorbed back into you. We want to get them all the way flushed out, right? That's the only thing I've heard of. The only people that really shouldn't, or maybe not even, I shouldn't even say shouldn't, but really, really needs to make sure they're working hand in hand with their doctor would be someone with an organ transplant, because it's going to boost that immune system of yours so dramatically that most of them are on immune suppressant drugs if you have somebody else's heart or liver or kidney in you, right? So you want to make sure that you are working with your doctor on that. But there are people that are on them even with organ transplants, because and it's saving their lives. It's the stories, the people who had no hope. You have 4 to 6 months to live. There's a picture on my website of someone who had cancer all the way through the throat, all the way down the body, and just covered. It was told, there's just nothing we can do for you. You have 4 to 6 months to live. She couldn't eat anymore because she couldn't swallow because the cancer had taken over the throat. And they said, get your affairs in order. And she used the 5 patches that are recommended for cancer are X39, Eon, Glutathione, Alavita, and Carnosine. And those 5 patches she wore, and in 5 months they did another scan. The PET scan was clean. She had no cancer, and that's it's like my friend with the leukemia, right? It's your body knowing how to fight. I mean, why we all have cancer? You've said it on your podcast. Right, yeah. We all have cancer in us. Why isn't your body fighting? Let's help our bodies fight everything that's out there. We're faced with so many toxins every single day, so many stressors out in the world. I just feel like there's nothing I could be doing better than helping my body fight all of that off, including my daily stress of being a care provider, with
Or not, I mean, not take it in, because I think we're so used to fighting and fighting and fighting. And, you know, the body has this miraculous capacity that I don't think we will ever understand.
Right.
It's like trying to define God or trying to define, you know, things that we have no concept of. And I think what's really important is that you're allowing the body to be miraculous instead of, you know, just trying to direct everything and take this for that and this supplement for that. And we're inundated with toxins. Yes. But what I like is that you don't have to become, you know, the Sherlock Holmes of your body and try and figure out what was contributing to it. You know, obviously get rid of the toxins and the poisons and really educate yourself on what they are.
Right.
Pretty much everything in the big box stores.
Right.
Anything that has a list of ingredients. And then if it grew out of the ground, fell out of a tree, walked around, it's okay to eat. Other than that, you know, and all of that good, pure, filtered water, you know, never, ever, ever want to drink tap water. And I don't trust the spring water because my delivery guy that was delivering Mountain Valley spring water to me was wearing a hairnet. I was like, why are you? He said, oh, I'm sorry. He got embarrassed. And I thought, you don't need to wear a hairnet to deliver bottles of water unless you're filling those jugs in.
Right. Oh, wow.
So, I mean, I don't have any direct evidence that they were doing it, but I was highly suspicious.
That is highly suspicious.
And spending $500 a month, you know, on getting water delivered. So now I go and harvest my own spring water. But back to just working synergistically with your body. I like that because I do believe, especially now, we need an extra hand, not just using straight nature. Well, using nature in the way that it can communicate with us.
Yes. And you know, you talked about how you love things that have been tested on pets. There's a great video on my website with horses, and you get to see them come out of pain immediately, just like I talked about with the IceWave. It's a product called AccuLife, which is designed specifically for pets. It's exactly the same as IceWave. It's just they have to market it differently and label it differently for pets. And that's a really fun small video, but you can, you know, they put the patches on, the horse is all fine. They take the patches off, the horse is like hurting again. And it's just remarkable. So really fun to see that. And even the aromatherapies, I think we underestimate, you know, there's a couple aromatherapies that are really natural and help with, improve oxytocin levels. I love that. I love that it helps balancing my hormone levels and it helps there's a dream that helps you fall asleep. I love the improved sleep. I never have trouble falling asleep anymore, which, you know, I have had moments where I lay in bed and thought, you know, about all, you know, you could wrap yourself around the axle thinking about all the things that are going on in your life. And it's nice not to have those issues anymore. Sleep is really my thing. Like if I don't get good sleep, I don't have a good day. And for some people that's exercise. For my daughter, that's exercise. For other people, it might be meditation. For other people, it might be food. None of those things are nearly as important as sleep is to me. And so I really prioritize. We head up to bed at 8:30 every single night. We are my whole family calls us like grandma, right? Because it is really ridiculous. And that's not to say we do that every night, but we really do consistently go to bed early. And I love that now. I didn't because I was a night bird. I really like staying up at night, but I didn't like getting up in the morning. Yeah. So it's not been an easy transition for me, but I needed to do it for him. And over time, you know, and we worked hard on that, and including putting red lights in our bathroom, you know, not eating 3 hours before bed, making sure we put our eyes on the morning sun, trying to ground, you know, doing all the things. And we were still having like 15 minutes of deep sleep for him. In the second week of the patches, he hit an hour and 20 minutes of deep sleep. And I was just celebrating because I know that's when the brain's detoxing. That's when good things are happening when you're doing the deep sleep, right?
Well, and, you know, I was talking to people about REM rebound, and when you work in treatment centers, people that have been alcoholic for 10, 20 years, when they go in and they get sober, they have what's called REM rebound, where the brain makes up for every single lost REM cycle. So that's how important sleep is. Your body
Wow.
wouldn't do that unless it was that imperative.
Yeah. Well, I mean, our bodies wouldn't, if you think about it from just going all the way back to when we were like cavemen, obviously sleep is important because it puts us in a very vulnerable place, right? It shuts you down. You are not protecting yourself in a time when you're sleeping. If your body is needing to do that so much, then we do need to honor that. And it can't be a badge of in any kind of honor that you're not sleeping. It needs to be a badge of stupidity, right? Like if you're bragging about the fact that you pulled an all-nighter, you should be embarrassed.
Yeah. Embarrassed, like you were up.
You don't prioritize your own wellness about that, right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, we are coming to the end. This is really informative. I'm going to talk to you after the show a little bit about patches too for myself. And, women in menopause too should be, and perimenopause and all of that, balancing hormones. We didn't even get to talk about that. So maybe I'll have to have you back on.
It really is. There's really nothing, if I were to go through my little list of I've captured sort of testimonials on things that have been improved, multiple, not just like one or two, but, and then I have personal, but there's everything from, the person who on day 2 no longer had acid reflux, to the acne, to arthritis, to certainly menopause, but dental, we haven't even begun to erectile dysfunction, which is really a blood flow issue often. Right. It's not head space issues, right? And, the macular degeneration, amazing testimonials around. I have a friend with Parkinson's. We talked about the myelin sheath, actually glutathione protecting the myelin sheath, but she has tremors since 5, and in 3 weeks she stopped. She couldn't hold a glass of water, Robin. It would fly all over the place, and she'd have to hold her hand to just hold a fork.
Right.
In 3 weeks, there were no noticeable tremors.
Wow.
She was so excited. So there are testimonials all over the place for darn near everything, but certainly for menopause, and menopause symptoms are gone, perimenopausal symptoms gone, just everything around the hormone balancing. And you wonder, there are times when I think about the fact that so much of our hormones are so powerful, and I think we really underestimate what getting them into balance can do for us across the board, from our brain health to our overall heart health to every part of our body. And I agree with you. And I listened to your podcast. I think you did one on
with Crystal. Reversing menopause.
Yeah, and it was really powerful. And I think we underestimate how important it is to take care of ourselves in that regard. And women are very uneducated around our hormones through life. So I love that I don't have to think about all that anymore. Like, it's just doing all the hard work for me. It's doing all the Sherlock Holmesing for me. I don't have to worry about any of these things anymore. So it is really lovely. And if I want to say this, if there are people in your audience who would like to, like, I do a Thursday every week webinar where I walk through a presentation, and I do a presentation walking through the patches and what they do and what each of the different patches do. And there's a doctor on the call with me. And she answers questions around, specific detailed things, which offers, more credibility than someone who's not a doctor in some regards.
I disagree with that.
Well, thank you. Well, for the most part, for most people, but from your perspective,
indoctrinated.
She's like against the wave of normal. Like she's against pharmaceuticals, and she's actually no longer doing like she wants to just she just wants to do patches, because she has said in all of her life she has never seen more miracles than in the time that she has been using patches for people. Her mother-in-law dropped 40 pounds in just like a month or two, and she's dropped like 30, and but not dropped weight as much as gained muscle. And, my mom and dad are in their 80s and they're sturdier, and it's so cute. My dad called me and said, well, I was talking to my high school friend and he's going to be giving you a call. And, my dad, and maybe he was a college buddy, but this, he's going to be 90 soon. And here calls this old guy. And he's like, I want to have whatever your dad's has. He says he's sturdier. And both my parents are sturdier, and they're in their 80s and, late 80s. So being sturdy at that age, that's huge.
That's excellent. Yeah. And so they can go to this Thursday.
Yeah, they can just reach out to me on my website, which is IamReverseAging.com.
Link is right down there.
Yes. Yeah. IamReverseAging.com. And then they reach out to me, and then I'll send them the invite to the Thursday Zoom call, and they can join and do the presentation. And then the Q&A isn't recorded, so that they can be very, very free. And we do that regularly. And I would love to help people. I would always rather help people than have them. You can buy the product just from the website. If you do that, I'm still going to send you an email that says, drink lots of water, reach out if you have any questions. Like, here's what I recommend. Here's where you wear that patch, and here's what you got, and here's what I can share with you about that. But I do like working with people. I think that having somebody, just like you said, if you don't have somebody holding your hand through the process, where do I put this?
Yeah.
I mean, I have people who have asked me 10 times, the same person, where do I put this? Put the X39 and the Eon wherever you have pain. If you have no pain, then just put it on the back of your neck, or below your belly button, because that's where they did it in the lab. And you get a little brochure, and the brochure will say, put it on the back of your neck or below your belly button, which is great, but it doesn't mean that that's where you have to put it. You can put it anywhere you have pain. So interesting.
Okay. And that's what for the X39, you can put it anywhere you have
anywhere at all. It'll work.
Okay.
And
my boyfriend's a bodybuilder, and he's having that classic nerve pain right in his shoulders, right here. He just said that just started happening. He's 56-year older. So I'll try that
on one and Eon on the other, actually, and that might, and we could even try IceWave on those spots too, to see if that helps right away. And there's so much. But if you just wanting to, if he doesn't really care, the pain isn't too bad, he just wants to start working on it and healing, it's really good. I mean, there are testimonials on nerve damage that I could send. Neuropathy, a ton of neuropathy testimonials of people who've had horrible neuropathy in their hands and feet, and it just goes away. It takes time. I don't want anybody to think that the cellular regeneration happens overnight. The IceWave takes people out of pain right away, but they say to activate all of your, so I don't think I even said, when you're 30, half of your stem cells are dormant, and when you're 60, they're almost all dormant. So what we're doing is we're waking up these dormant stem cells to go to work for you. Well, to do that effectively, you need to wear the X39 for at least a month for every decade you are old. And by that point, you've really activated your stem cells.
Okay.
And now, if you stop the patches, you would just start aging again in a normal rate. You haven't gone back to zero, like, come off of a blood pressure medicine, everything goes to hell in a handbasket. But when you're just stopping the patches, you've still made huge progress in healing inside.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah.
And again, that usually speaks to that it's working synergistically with your body.
Sure.
You're not having that rebound or
those stem cells are active. They're active for you now. So now them starting to be deactivated over time when they, start sort of dying off.
So IamReverseAging.com, and can they do a private consult with you as well?
Yes. Yeah, they just reach out to me and say, I'd like to chat with you. And then we set up a time and I talk with people, and it's really, really fun for me. So this is not my day job. This is my passion. I just love helping people do this. It's so intrinsically rewarding to help people get their health, because what doesn't improve? Your relationships, your business, your just your day in and day out life. Everything is better when you feel better.
And is your husband improving?
So my husband, there are areas that have improved. He actually got back his sense of smell at the 5-month mark. So certain things are improving and other things are not. And so I'm still hopeful. There are still some new products coming out next year that David, the inventor, has hinted at, one of which is supposed to be really helpful for someone with Parkinson's, which means it will be very helpful for someone with Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that comes out more towards the beginning of the year rather than I don't think it's a patch. So I'm interested to see where he's going with that and what those are. I'm still hopeful, and I do recognize it's going to take time, and so I'm still doing other things too. We're still very serious about, he's working out with a trainer, and when he's not with the trainer on those days, he's with me. So we're still working on the muscles, and we're still working on, we do algae. We take in, I don't know if you're familiar with energy bits. I like the algae and the spirulina and the chlorella to get those in, and it's kind of a different form of food, but an interesting one. And so we're doing all the things, even hydrogen water. I actually have a hydrogen water maker, which I don't know what your thoughts on that are, but that would be interesting. So we could talk all day long.
Yeah, we could talk about all.
But I still am trying for other things, and I'm still praying for that miracle, because he's not out of the woods yet, really.
Yeah, and have you done like Weston A. Price diet? Looked into that, where it's heavier with the fats and
yes,
and richer meats.
We put coconut oil into his you don't like MCT oil?
Not now, especially. I mean, MCT, I especially don't. But coconut oil, they're putting in microplastics on all of the organic stuff, and
so this is MCT or 8 oil, but that would be interesting. So we have been doing more of the Bredesen protocol. So fish oil, coconut oil, extra virgin olive oil.
Fish oil only if it's not in capsules, if it's actually from fish.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. This
so
isn't
not rancid.
This is Darlene's fish oil, which is
I used to live in Bellingham, where Darlene's is.
Yes,
so I'm really familiar with Darlene's, and the other thing I would suggest for your husband is raw 1 hump camel's milk.
Okay. Yeah, I will write that down. Say it again for me.
Raw 1 hump camel's milk, if you can find it.
Okay. Does it taste terrible? It sounds
no. it tastes actually pretty good, but I have had one woman wrote a book on it that she healed her son from autism.
Okay.
And I used it for an 80-something-year-old man who had dementia.
Okay.
And he didn't after.
Wow, that's impressive. We have a ton of autism success stories. In fact, the person that introduced me to the patches, her daughter has a rare genetic disorder. She went from kindergarten to 4th grade in 5 weeks on just X39, and then at the 9-month mark was retested. And where she had no executive reasoning before, all of a sudden she had the executive reasoning of a 16-year-old. So she had been 16, living at a kindergarten level, and she has had all of this tremendous improvement in behavior and academics.
Amazing. Well,
and stopped using ADHD medicine on day 15. Just didn't need it. This was a child who was constantly combative and really moving at all times, even in her sleep. And all of a sudden she just doesn't need it anymore.
Wow. I mean, I'm very interested, and I always like to use myself as an example. The direction with the patches. So I appreciate your time, Darlene. I'm so glad.
And I appreciate all that you're doing. Thank you for being the voice out there. And sometimes it feels like it's got to feel like a lone voice out there against the masses. You're the salmon fishing, swimming upstream. Thank God for you, because we really can't. We need you. We need your story and all the people that you bring into your podcast with their unique perspectives and their unique voices. And they don't get, inevitably you hear, well, why don't I know about this? Why isn't this on TV? Why isn't this in the news? Why isn't this on the front page? Well, why do you think? You
follow the money.
Yeah, follow the money. You think Big Pharma and the government and the big news outlets want you to, no.
They don't want to use the CURE word, and they don't want to hear miraculous results, and they don't want it to be, they want downstream customers, but chronic customers that will get progressively worse in a soft kill.
Right.
As opposed to all of these modalities. It's like, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing, because these are good people that I go and see every day, and in the inner city of Vallejo, and they don't know. They weren't given the option. It's just indoctrinate you into trusting the white coat gods, and then they write a prescription and it destroys your health. And that's just the way they've, cradle to grave. And I'm tired of that. So thank you for that.
I'm with you. And I'm tired of them thinking they have the power to diagnose you. They don't. And you don't have to own that diagnosis. You don't have to take that in. You can just dismiss that and keep working towards resolution of the root causes of your issues, as opposed to medically treating pharmaceutically your symptoms. So,
don't give him that power. Keith Mitchell, an NFL football player that was paralyzed on the field, they told him he would never walk again. And he looked at the doctor, because he's, a cocky NFL player, and he said, "Who are you to diagnose me with anything? I will not give you that power." Don't everyone say that to your doctor. Don't allow him to have that power, or her.
That's exactly right.
Because they don't. They don't know. They don't know.
No, they don't know. They really don't know. And so often they're guessing. And so often they're just, and I have a lot of friends that are doctors. So don't get me wrong. I mean, it's frustrating, because I have doctor friends who will not talk to me about this because, I'm much more mainstream than this. I'm just like,
they're indoctrinated.
do you think that I'm lying to you? I mean, I'm your dear friend. I'm telling you what a huge difference this has made for both of us. Different than, anything in my whole life.
Because they'd have to, a lot of times, admit they were wrong.
That's right.
And that they'd harmed people.
That's true.
And so a lot of people are not willing. Yeah, you got a house payment and a boat payment, and you want to go to, Spain next year. Is like, la 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 la. I got, a few more years in this, and everybody else is doing it, so I'm just going to put my head down and finish it out.
Yeah,
I think that's what. But as we wake one another up to our power, the miraculous capacity of your human body to heal itself, to work synergistically with benign things that aren't going to hurt you. You're not going to call poison control if you see your baby putting patches all over him.
Right. No. Right? No. And in fact, babies to 90 to 100 stem cells are what made your body. It can be your brain, your heart, your lung. It can be anything in your body. It's the raw materials of what you were made of. Everybody should want more of those, and to activate the ones that they do have. Everyone.
Well, I'm going to go put my X39 on and go work out. So
good.
I look forward to connecting with you.
Likewise, Robin. Thank you for having me on your show.
Thank you.
Great work.